Go ahead, and I would like to call the meeting to order on June 25th, 2001, meeting of the Human Service and Community Safety Council Committee. At this time, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pass over to Councilmember Doreen Garland, and she is going to approve minutes.
All right, I would like to move to approve the minutes from April 23rd and from the June 25th meetings.
So moved. I will approve.
Okay, I vote aye, and you say
Aye as well.
all right, motion carried. We are good.
Okay, what we got next? I think you're on next, or is it me on next? Let's see.
Number 3 for you.
Yeah, public comments. I think we're going up next. So let me get to that real quick. So the committee welcomes public comments. According to Arizona open meeting laws, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public appearances that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be affected. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get to the comment cards. I think, Tim, are you on?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and organize the comments?
Yeah, we received 9 comment cards. As you said, for an item to be discussed, it needs to be an action item on the agenda. We received 9 comment cards, and they were all related to Vision Zero and traffic. Since this is not an action item on the agenda, you cannot discuss it, but we have 9 comment cards. I believe 2 of the comment cards were to be read into record by the attendees, and I see them here. I see Kendra Flory, who I will unmute right now. Kendra, you should be able to.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi there. Thanks for listening to us today. I'm a resident of Tempe, a mother, a cyclist, and I want to address the committee regarding Vision Zero, as well as mentioned in the agenda, the traffic mitigation with connectivity to downtown Tempe as relates to safety. Last year, the city voted against lowering speed limits in Tempe, and that doesn't fall in line with Vision Zero's mission in lowering fatalities and serious injuries. A more equitable community is one where the lives of those who use our streets to commute are considered, one where our children are able to walk and bike to school without accompaniment. We're able to commute to downtown Tempe safely, one where citizens can age in place and use our amazing public transportation that we already have in place. During the Global Street Safety Week, I attended a forum by the National Safety Council addressing the impact of vehicular speed on the safety of our streets. And research continues to show that reducing speed will improve the safety of our streets for pedestrians and for cyclists. Safer streets would also mean less vehicle traffic, as residents will use those bike lanes to commute to and from downtown. So I strongly urge the committee and the council to address this issue by lowering the speed limits in Tempe. Thank you so much for your time and commitment to safety.
Thank you for the comments. Tim, what's next?
Yeah, next will be Hannah Bellick. I just saw her. All right. Hannah, you're unmuted.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hello, neighbors, council members, and staff members of the Human Services and Community Safety Council Committee. My name is Hannah Moulton Bellick. I'm here today on behalf of my HOA, Villa Patrician. We are a 49 townhouse community at College and Southern. We as a community and our neighbors north of us in Brentwood, Cavalier, and Broadmoor have begun discussions about what we can do to make bike and pedestrian safety a priority on our roadways. On today's agenda, item 4A3, you're discussing downtown safety in downtown Tempe, including traffic control with an eye toward the performance measure of achieving a reduction in the number of fatal and serious injury crashes to 0. A critical component of fostering that kind of safety at downtown Tempe events is to encourage people not to drive to get there. The most prominent north-south bikeway to get to downtown Tempe is College Avenue, where I live with my husband and 2 young kids. We bike up College due north for transportation to school, work, and recreation. We do this as vehicles speed by us in the bike lane, far beyond the 25-mile-per-hour limit, because there's not much about the street design that discourages them from using College to cut through to get around traffic on Rural or Mill. College is one of the bicycle boulevards that the city has designated as part of the Tempe Transportation Master Plan. According to the city's bike boulevards background information on the city's website, bike boulevards are meant to, quote, discourage through trips by motor vehicles and promote safe, convenient bicycle use and crossing of busy arterial and collector streets. Bike boulevards connect neighborhoods to major destinations, employment centers, and activity centers, unquote. There were 7 reported pedestrian or bike-related accidents on the 1-mile stretch of College from Southern to Broadway from January 2017 to January 2020. That's not taking into account everything that happened more recently, anything that went unreported, or accidents just involving cars and property. In the last year, we as neighbors have seen an uptick in single car accidents. We know the primary factor in many of these accidents is speed. We've seen walls destroyed. We've seen people pushed off their bikes by cars. We've heard the squealing tires of vehicles that seem to be literally racing down the street. I fear that an out of control vehicle will crash into my house. My kids' bedroom faces College. Although our street is designated as a bike boulevard, it is not designed that way. The wide streets invite speeding cars to zoom through while we walk our dogs, run for exercise, commute, or bike to downtown Tempe for events or dining. I'd like to ask you today to consider this a safety issue that touches every part of our city and ask that you address this specifically on a future agenda. Thank you so much. And thanks, Tim, for your help.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. Tim, who do we got next?
We have Ryan Eland. I see him as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Go ahead.
Ryan, you're on
Hi,
mute.
everyone. I'm just going to comment. I'm not reading something, but I live on, I've lived on Fairmont and College for since 2009. And we were part of, we've been here since they made the initial kind of like short, like the narrowing of College and put those initial speed things in. But like the others have said, it's not been enough. We literally have drag racers on College frequently, and people who have lined up next to each other in like in the other lane, like the ongoing traffic lane, and drag raced off of Broadmoor and College, heading southbound towards Southern, using the oncoming lane as like their drag racing. It's a significant problem. I've got 3 little children, and we feel like we're held hostage in our home from that side of it. And because there are the speed limit is just completely not watched, and people use College as a commuter street, and a way to get around traffic on Mill and Southern. And loving this neighborhood, being part of this neighborhood, the Brentwood Cavalier, Broadmoor area is, to me, it's one of the most beloved neighborhoods, one of the most sought after neighborhoods in Tempe. The neighbors care about it, and I think we could make it a lot better. That's all.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Tim, anything else?
Yeah, I have the ones to read into the record, and I will do
Okay,
so.
go for it.
The first one is from Emily Walsman. Council members, I am writing today to express concern about the traffic along College Ave between the US 60 and Apache Boulevard. As a resident that lives off of College, the amount of speeding that happens by both regular drivers and city vehicles make a thoroughfare that has been designated as a bike-friendly road unnerving to travel at times. As a parent who has children that attend McKinney Academy and Broadmoor Elementary, the thought of allowing them to bicycle to school during the year is concerning. I would like to see a review of the traffic calming for the 2.5-mile stretch. I think considering a roundabout at the intersections of College and Alameda and College and Parkway would go a long way. Being consistent with the calming through the whole section of the area would be wonderful to deter using College as a pass-through for Rural Road or Mill Avenue. Thank you for your time today in reading my comment. So the next one is from Andrea Weinberg. Traffic calming measures are necessary on College south of ASU campus. Traffic calming from campus often proceeds straight out of campus, even though this is not allowed. This is dangerous for cyclists, The orbit buses are wide and in areas where there is a median, it crowds cyclists. The road should be made wider by removing the medians. These do not slow traffic, but rather crowd cyclists. Finally, traffic speeds are much too fast for this designated low-stress route for cyclists and pedestrians. The next one is from Kyle Kenkel. Tempe voted against lowering speed limits last year. Research about making streets safer for cyclists and pedestrians, which is the goal of Vision Zero, shows that the way to do this is to lower speed limits. Tempe needs to catch up to other Vision Zero communities by lowering speed limits. We have two more. This next one is from James Dupuy. Good afternoon, Tempe Council Committee. I write to encourage the city to consider the benefits of lowering speed limits, especially but not exclusively on streets that cut through neighborhoods. Research shows that lower speed limits are directly related to safer streets, and that safer streets are correlated with higher community satisfaction, stronger local economies, and several other positive outcomes. Sincerely, James. The last one is from Tara Eland. Hello, my name is Tara. I have lived in Tempe for 20 years. My family has lived in a home right on College between Broadway and Southern for the past 12 years. In the last 9 years, I have had 3 daughters. I have also developed a high level of awareness to the traffic in our neighborhood. My children are not biking on College. No one is safe biking on College with the speeds I witness daily. I could blame College drivers or bad drivers or someone else. However, I'm going to argue they are not the problem. It's the street. College is beautiful. It is wide. There are nice streets, no stoplights, no speed bumps. This street invites drivers to choose it over rural or mill for the reasons I've listed, and it invites everyone to speed. I even catch myself frequently going over the speed limit. I'm in a hurry, maybe I'm distracted, and I'm probably driving in an automatic mode. When I'm in an automatic mode, I often go the speed of surrounding traffic or what feels appropriate to the street design. This street that I live on feels comfortable to drive at 40 miles an hour or more, and this is a problem. We have people walking, biking, jogging, and kids coming and going from 2 separate colleges on College. This combination of activity and speed is dangerous. I'm asking that our city of Tempe takes action to change College Avenue from a beautiful street people love to drive fast down to a street that is safe for our residents to live and bike on. We love this community and we love the effort that has been put into College Avenue to make it more beautiful for bikers and our community. Now I ask, let's we add in speed bumps and roundabouts to also make it safe. Thank you. That was the last one.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the comments, and we appreciate the people writing the comments in. So I know that we can't speak on them right now, and we will, if I'm correct, Tim, we're going to be talking about this in August.
Correct. At the end of today's meeting, you can request that. Okay.
All right. We'll then go ahead and carry on with the rest of the meeting, and we'll throw that request in at the very end. Going with next items on the agenda is the committee session items, new items for consideration. Committee session items are going to be presented here, and I think we're going to start with a presentation of the regional approach to homeless solutions from Maricopa Association of Governments, and I'm going to pass it over to Councilmember Garland.
Yeah, I just want to introduce Amy St. Peter. She's from MAG, which is the Maricopa Association of Governments. She spoke to the same committee in March, and so we're going to get some more information and some follow-up. So Amy, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, co-chairs and members of the committee. Really happy to be back with you today. Appreciate your continued partnership and the opportunity to share this information with you. The purpose of my presentation then is not just to share the information, but really to hear your ideas, your concerns, your questions, and to receive your direction. It's critically important in all these regional efforts that we recognize that every community is entering this work in a different place. Every community, just like every person, has different needs, different preferences, different priorities. So it's our goal to make sure that the regional plan and all these regional efforts reflect your priorities. And so this dialogue is critically important to achieving that. Because every community then is responsive to their residents, to their city councils. They want opportunities to be able to work with their neighbors and others throughout the region. And we're very excited to be able to work with all of you throughout these efforts. Next slide, please. These are the topics I'll be covering briefly today. I encourage you to jump in and ask any questions, provide your comments throughout. Really eager to have this dialogue with you. Next slide, please. So since I last presented in March, we've continued building this regional response to homelessness and really focus on strengthening that. There are a lot of really, really good things underway already. We want to leverage those, we want to replicate those, and then we want to fill any gaps that might still be remaining. Next slide, please. And so through it all then, our focus has really maintained the same. We're particularly focused on now building that action plan together with you, with a primary goal of reducing the numbers of people who are experiencing homelessness throughout the entire region. And in particular, we're focused on at least 3 different main groups, but we're focused on anyone that, that might be touched by homelessness. And that is reducing the numbers of people who are unsheltered and experiencing homelessness, reducing family homelessness, and then reducing chronic homelessness, defined as people who have experienced homelessness over an extended period of time and to have some kind of qualifying conditions such as mental health and substance use. These are the main priorities that we've heard from the region so far. And so we're particularly looking right now at how do we reduce homelessness in those 3 areas, but keeping an eye towards anyone who might be experiencing this issue. In our work, we've been very focused since the very beginning on how do we increase the geographic footprint of homeless assistance programs throughout the entire region. We know that there is need, so at least some level of need present throughout the entire region, but there are not necessarily resources present throughout the region. We also know that people stabilize much more quickly when they're close to home. Even if someone has lost their home, they still consider that community to be their home community. And they're just going to stabilize more quickly when they're close to their job, to their family, to their friends, to their faith community, and to their children's schools. And we also want to make sure that we're keeping people housed before, after, and during the pandemic, really working on strengthening that safety net and making sure that this work is inclusive of all people with a racial equity lens. Next slide, please. This work is only possible thanks to our partners. We consider the City of Tempe really to be a leading partner in these efforts. We want to thank you for the investment of time that you've made, for the feedback that's been shared to date. We're eager to continue working with you. But all of this work truly is supported by a range of different partners from different sectors. There isn't any one sector that created homelessness, nor is there any one sector who can solve it. Next slide, please. How we're doing this work is just as important as what we're doing. And so I'd like to spend just a few moments on that. Next slide, please. Again, just as a reminder, we were asked to help strengthen these regional efforts around homelessness back in the fall. Since we last presented to you in March, we have completed our initial research as well as the outreach. We've actually just completed the development of the 14 priority strategies. We had taken a look at more than 300 different strategies that were being employed at the local level, used a variety of different research and outreach in order to identify the 14 most important priorities to implement right now as a region. Those were just adopted by Regional Council at MAG last month. I want to thank the City of Tempe for their positive vote on those strategies. They also accepted the regional portfolio that provides extensive documentation about how we develop those 14 strategies. Right now, we're squarely in that green circle with tactics to implement. So we will be launching our efforts then to develop the regional action plan, working closely with communities throughout the region, including the City of Tempe. Next slide, please. Our vision and mission remain the same. We want to make sure that all communities are strong, safe, and healthy, and that when homelessness does occur, because we know that it will, that it is rare, it's brief, and it's just one time. This very much aligns with the approach that the City of Tempe is taking, and we look forward to working with you closely as we implement this vision and mission. Next slide, please. We've completed our outreach since the last time I spoke with you back in March. Next slide, please. So we've completed 10 forums and we've touched more than 700 people through those, focused on engaging different sectors, different people in this important work. We recently held our capstone event just earlier this month. I want to thank Andrew Ching, your city manager, for moderating one of the panels at that event. Through that event, we're able to touch 245 people who attended that. We had 300 register, so we're very excited about that retention rate. And many of you were able to participate as well. So thank you again for giving your time and for the time of your staff as well. The purpose of that capstone event then was to conclude the outreach portion of this work, but really the big lift is just starting right now with the development of that action plan. But all of the information, all the perspectives that were shared throughout all of this outreach will be wrapped into the tactics then that will be identified throughout the development of that action plan. Next slide, please. So we're building the action plan on the basis of those 14 strategies that were just adopted. Next slide, please. And all of those 14 strategies have been organized within these 5 categories. These were the 5 categories that were identified on the basis of that extensive research and outreach. And these really represent our most viable opportunities to make a difference in homelessness at that regional basis. Some examples of the strategies include increasing the supply and the geographic dispersion of temporary housing. And so looking at a variety of different mechanisms like that. So everything from kind of pre-emergency shelter to bridge housing, to rapid rehousing, to permanent supportive housing, really creating a balanced housing portfolio throughout the region and within each community. Again, the way that these strategies and tactics will be implemented will look different in different communities because every community needs to respond to the needs of the residents, both housed and unhoused. Some of these strategies are already underway. The Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board, for example, is actively implementing 4 out of the 14 strategies. Maricopa County is also implementing a landlord engagement strategy, which fits squarely within these categories as well. So there's a lot of effort already underway. We're wanting to support that, to amplify that, and then to replicate that throughout the region, being mindful of any gaps that might still exist and making sure that we have good, solid tactics in place with defined outcome measures, as well as possible funding sources to be able to support the implementation of this work. Next slide, please. In the remaining moments of this presentation, then I'll cover the next steps that we're deeply engaged in right now. Next slide, please. Next week on July 1st, we'll be able to share the initial results from our regional funding target and scenario analysis. That's where we're taking a look at what is the projected number of people who will need additional shelter beds and housing units. What are the costs of those units, really based on local current data, and then being able to get feedback on if the analysis rings true and if there's any modifications that might be needed to either the data, the methodology, or the way that we're interpreting those results. We'll be sharing the results of that analysis with the municipal human services directors and other stakeholders on July 1st next week. We are continuing to fine-tune the hand-up tool, Homelessness Assets and Needs for Unified Data Planning, that I shared with you at our last meeting in March. That access is available to you now with the password that we're happy to share with you. The site is password protected right now because we just want to make sure that the data are complete and that it's completely accurate. And when we're comfortable with that analysis and with that review, then we'll open it up to the public as well. But we're hearing very good feedback about the information that's available to you through this tool. We're able to reflect the assets that are used to address homelessness, as well as the people who might need these homeless assistance programs, as reflected by the population currently experiencing homelessness, as well as those who are at risk, as defined by indicators such as calls to 211 for housing and homeless assistance programs, where people are filing for unemployment claims, and where people are paying more than 30% of their income on housing every month. We're working hard right now to analyze and integrate the findings from that capstone event. We had 10 different breakout sessions, each discussing an element of the strategies. And so we're working with the Arizona Town Hall. We're very grateful to them for lending their expertise in facilitating the event, as well as authoring the report. We're developing the action plan then with you, and that will be available for your action in the fall. In June, we'll be completing the regional scenario analysis and the regional data analysis. In July, then we'll move to the development of a regional coordination team, and we'll have different work groups, whether that's by geography or by strategy, by interest area, even size of community, to be able to delve into what are the specific tactics that will resonate at the local level as well as at that regional level. In September, then, on the basis of that work at the regional coordination team, we'll be identifying additional actions that can be taken to ensure ownership throughout the entire region, and that every community is supported in ways that resonate with the needs of their residents very specifically, as well as the priorities of their councils. Next slide, please. This is my direct contact information. You have my direct phone number as well as my email address. I provide it because I'd love for you to use it. Please do feel free to reach out at any time with your ideas, concerns, questions. I'm really happy to work with you. Tempe has been an absolute leader in this space, particularly through the East Valley Managers Group that continues to meet and has been for the past 4 years. You've been building a very strong capacity to address homelessness throughout the East Valley, as well as the direct investments that you've made as a city of Tempe. I want to thank you for your support and for the ability to work with you and with your staff to address this very important issue at that regional basis. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions or direction that you might have.
So this is Doreen. I have a question. So what's the end goal for all of this information and this work, that the study that's been going? What are we looking at as the end goal? Is it that every city will have a plan that's specific, and that we will work together to do it, so that one city isn't really working hard because they've got a lot and another city is? I mean, I just wonder what is the goal for all of this in the end?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. The end goal is that every community is doing something to address homelessness, and they're able to coordinate that at the regional level. And so communities might do different things. We have some communities who are very interested in community courts, for example. We have others that are very interested in expanding the supply of housing. We have others that are very keenly interested in temporary housing solutions. And so we have our consultants working on a whole menu of different options for that. So what communities might do could be very different, but all of it will be very much focused on achieving those three goals of reducing numbers of people who are experiencing homelessness, increasing the access to homeless assistance programs throughout the entire region, and then really strengthening that safety net for all people.
And then what about financials? So if you look at the map that you have, there are certain cities that seem to have a lot of the homeless and unsheltered people congregating around, like Cass and Phoenix, and a lot of them down here in Tempe. So, and the other cities don't have that, but it doesn't mean that they don't have homeless. They might have just walked over to our area. So is there going to be a mutual sharing of finances to help support this?
Really good question. We are taking a look at that question from two different levels. One is to identify the possible funding sources that could be used. We're looking at that very broadly too. So for example, there are partners like Access who already have millions of dollars committed to supportive services for people experiencing homelessness. So can we partner with them more strategically? Can we partner with different funders so that one maybe can take care of the capital costs for a project, the other can take care of those supportive service costs for a project? We're also approaching funding from the other angle of how much will all of this cost, and being very realistic about what those costs are, wanting to make sure that we're fully covering all costs. We are working right now with Applied Economics to actually develop a calculator that communities can use, so that if a community, for example, is interested in developing 100 bridge housing units, they can plug that number in and then be able to find out how much it'll cost. And again, it's based on local current data. So while we may not necessarily be pooling resources at a regional basis, we'll be supporting each community to identify the tactics that they want to implement, and then helping them to find the funding then to be able to cover those costs well on a sustainable ongoing basis. We'll also be supporting communities and partnering with one another, particularly on the bigger projects. We're talking with a variety of different partners as well, who are bringing funding as well as other assets like land to this discussion, and helping to broker those conversations. And so we're looking at how much things will cost, what are the funding sources that can be used to meet those costs, and then helping with those conversations among a variety of different partners throughout the region.
Okay, I have just one more question. Sorry, Joel, I kind of confiscated this for a minute. In March, you had 543 or 500 something surveys in so far. What did you end up with at the end?
Yes, thank you so much for that. We had a great response to those surveys. We're continuing to analyze that. They offer a number of different opportunities to leverage things that are already in place, such as the misdemeanor repeat offender program, opportunities to really scale that up to a regional basis. We're hearing a lot of support from all of our stakeholders around having a consistent approach to homelessness, particularly from the law enforcement angle. We understand that it's not the primary function of law enforcement to address homelessness. We also understand, though, that they're often the first point of contact with people who are experiencing homelessness. So having that consistent approach can be very, very helpful, and really critical then to having a comprehensive regional solution. So we're continuing to focus in on that. We're also focusing in on those common training needs. We heard different areas of interest, both from the first responders, from fire, as well as from law enforcement directly. And so we'll be looking further into those results to identify what are the specific training needs, what is already available to meet those needs, and what still needs to be developed. And so that will play out as well through the action plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, just very great. I mean, Doreen, it really kind of hit all the questions that I kind of wanted to get to. Just one general question is, obviously with this information and with what we get out of it, we're going to start seeing some real data on what generally is working, what's not working, what we need to fund, how do we need to get the funding in, all those things will be coming up in the future, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And I think you're spot on with the first responders, with PD and fire, is the opportunity really for the crisis is there, and that person in need, you have that opportunity. How do we start really working with that to start translating that into some real benefit for that individual? So, you know, obviously at the end, I think for communities, for our city, I think when it comes down to it, when we're loaded with the information that we get from the region and what we're doing as a city, and we're able to show what services are working, what's not working, what trends are happening, we can logically talk about homelessness in more depth. And then also we can start crafting more services to tackle those areas specifically. I don't know if we are going to get everyone on board, you know, because visually we see people on the streets and stuff, and we don't know if they're taking services or not. But we do need to have that information on how do we start strategizing, and what are the things that are working, and what are the trends with people who are homelessness, and what are they using, and why are they homeless? You know, so this is going to be great information. I look forward to more of this down the road.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. You know, and access to quality data is really key to all of this. So we've been working very closely with Solari Crisis and Human Services, and that's been a great partnership. And for example, we're hearing from a lot of communities that they really appreciate having better access to the by name list. That's a list that they keep of people who have been touched so far by the outreach teams. And that's actually yielding a better understanding of who's in their community right now than the point in time count. The point in time count is just that, it's a point in time. It's done once a year during regular health years, you know, not pandemics. But the by name list is updated on an ongoing basis, and it's very, very current data. And so working with them, and then in the long term too, looking at creating a dashboard that anyone can access to really give that information. And so, for example, the performance outcomes from the hotel model, such as the one that the city of Tempe has invested in, excellent performance outcomes with 80% positive exits, which is phenomenal, much higher than what we're seeing in some of the other programs. And there's a variety of reasons for that. So it's important to understand the reasons that contribute to different levels of performance, and then to make sure that we're investing in the areas that will yield the highest levels of performance overall.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Our next presentation is from the Human Services Department. It's a human services update that we're doing every other month, because we think it's so incredibly important to get this information. So I would like to welcome our Human Services Director, Naomi Farrell. You're muted.
Wow, sorry about that. So thank
There
you,
you go.
Council Members Garland and Navarro. So yeah, we'll be giving a brief update today, as you heard from Amy, on the regional approaches and local approaches. And as we start building those systems, what's really important is how do we reach out to those individuals and families experiencing homelessness? So how do we get them into these systems? And so effective outreach is very important. Building trust, building those relationships, making sure they're getting those basic needs, and then helping them get to that pathway toward stable housing. So we're very excited to present to you an update on a new partnership with between the city of Tempe and ASU, which will increase our response to homelessness. So the partnership came, we can go to the next slide. So the partnership came about from ASU's desires to participate in and support the city's homeless outreach team program and the city's effort in ending homelessness by making it rare, brief, and one time. The MOU approved by council just last evening is effective as of July 1. And ASU will fund 2 new 40-hour-a-week positions for 2 years. We are currently in the recruitment process for these outreach staff, so we anticipate timely hiring of the positions. The addition of the 2 positions will take our current outreach team from 7 to 9. The additional staff allows for greater coverage, both in area covered and hours that are going to be accessible to outreach. Next slide, please. So just a little about what our HOPE team does. HOPE outreaches to individuals and families experiencing homelessness in Tempe by providing housing assessments, housing plans, referral and navigation services. The HOPE assists in reuniting homeless individuals with their families. And one of the critical functions of the team is assisting people in securing vital documents such as photo IDs, birth certificates, and social security cards. These documents are critical to receiving benefits and housing. The new outreach team will be providing this street-based engagement, the case management and connections to housing on the ASU campus and surrounding area. With the additional staff, we anticipate positive outcomes such as increased engagement numbers and increasing those permanently housed. Again, we are very appreciative of ASU's commitment and are excited to move this partnership forward. So at this time, I can open it up to any questions that you might have on the partnership and what we're looking at.
When do you hope to have the positions filled, Naomi?
So right now we're in a recruitment process. We had been filling some vacant positions. So we're recruiting right now. It's very possible, depending on how those recruitments play out, we could have people in place by mid-July.
Okay, I just wanted to give my heartfelt appreciation and thanks to ASU for partnering with us and for helping us increase our HOPE team from 7 to 9. That it seems like such a small number, but it's going to make such an incredible difference to the people who really need it. So ASU, thank you so much. We're so glad we're partnering with them. And Naomi, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, nothing from me. I mean, this is perfect. I'm glad we're getting this partnership going, and obviously I hope we can expand on this, down the future. So thank you so much, Naomi. This is great.
Yeah, we, Human Services Department, the City of Tempe, again, we're just so appreciative and excited to be entering into this partnership. And so we'll also be providing ASU with some quarterly reports. We'll be following our success very closely. And so we believe we'll have some great impacts from this.
Definitely.
Wonderful.
No, this is great.
Thank you for the update, Naomi, on that.
So right now I want to introduce and bring Shanna Ellis to talk about a proposed Nexus position. And Shanna is the Action Nexus Executive Director. And so she'll present or talk a little bit about what they're proposing as far as a new position and potential partnership. So I'll turn it over to Shanna.
Welcome, Shanna.
Shanna Ellis, like former council member Shanna Ellis? She hiding?
I can see her on the display. Can't hear you, Shanna. I see her mic's off. Let's see.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so
Welcome.
much for having me here today. I'm really excited to talk about this new position that we put together. As Naomi had said, Dr. Crow and Mayor Woods, they meet on a regular basis and kind of brainstorm about how we can work together. And homelessness, of course, came up. And so the commitment to the HOPE positions came out of that meeting. But another item came out of it, and it's the ASU Action Nexus, which was just formed last March. And this is to connect ASU resources with the greater community. Right now, the two positions that are funded, mine and program manager, Cricket Wetherington, are focused on the downtown Phoenix campus because that is where the funding came from. It comes from the Garcia Family Foundation, and it goes to through the Human Service Campus. So most of our focus is down there. We have found over the past year, especially during the pandemic, how connecting ASU resources with the greater community has been so important. For instance, we were able to get testing down to the Human Service Campus for employees, thanks to the ASU Biodesign Institute. We have had an architecture class that's working on redesigning the space in the cast shelter and a lot of the dining rooms there, because of course everything changes with COVID as far as spacing goes. And there have been some other very unique projects that we've had different clubs working on and that type of thing that are in the sphere of homelessness. We would like to bring that model to Tempe, and we're not asking Tempe for money. I plan to go out and ask for private money. Of course, with anybody's help, that would be great. But we would like to create a position in Tempe, and I've had conversations with city staff about this, so that it would be an employee of ASU, but they would actually be housed at the city of Tempe and work with your interdepartmental team and your human service agencies on what some of those needs are. Just as an example, I found out last week, there are over 100 dissertations or theses that are in progress right now by ASU students that have to do with homelessness. And the community does not know about this research. And we want to be able to have a designated person in Tempe that can bring that to all of you, that can talk to you about what are the trends and what is really going on in the community. So we didn't want this to get mixed up with the two HOPE positions because those are totally different positions. This is strictly a position that will help connect resources between the city of Tempe, both your staff and what you do, and the nonprofit providers. We are already working quite a bit in Tempe. I did a joint presentation with the Salvation Army to the Mirabella residents to talk about homelessness just a couple weeks ago. And also the Action Nexus was a partner with Tempe Community Action Agency on their successful senior shared housing grant that they just received $250,000 from the Arizona Community Foundation for this new model, and we were helping them with that. So we are already in Tempe, but we really want to have a bigger presence. ASU sometimes is looked at as this big bureaucracy that's really difficult to figure out, and we want to be more accessible to the Tempe community. So I have a job description ready to go, and just wanted to run it by all of you so that you understood what we were doing out there, and you could be an advocate for any funding that we could bring for this position. Any questions?
Thank you, Shanna. I like the partnership again that we're going to have with ASU, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys are really looking at trying to find solutions and bringing the two of us together, the city and the ASU together, to really work on the stuff that's really important and things that are happening right around us. And I like the idea that you're going to go out and find funding for it. So thank you. How long is it going to be an annual position that'll be renewed annually, or?
Yeah, it will of course depend on the funding source. Right now, the Action Nexus is funded for at least, so the one in Phoenix is funded for at least 3 years, but it could be up to 10 years. So we just need to go back with progress reports and that type of thing. So we would be really flexible in working with a funder on all of that. We would hope it would be multi-year, because we really need, it's going to take somebody some time to get educated in order to have a big impact. And so, you know, we would hope for multi-year funding.
Okay. Joel, did you have any
That
questions?
sounds great. No, actually, this sounds great. I mean, I'm glad we're partnering with ASU. Obviously, the more resources, the better that we're going to have to help combat all this, for sure. Is there any word on, Shannon, like grant funding or any of that federally coming down the pipe, or what are we hearing, or anybody advocating for it, and what do we need to do on our end?
Well, yes, there's a lot of the ARPA money that's coming down to cities, to the county, to the state, that type of thing. A lot of them are not operation funded. You know, they have to do with a lot of capital expenses. But of course, if anyone would be interested in using their ARPA money for this, we would be more than happy to entertain that as far as this position goes. But right now, we're more focused on private foundations and that type of thing in order to receive funding, which we hope would go into effect very soon. One of the things that Cricket and I have been doing is working with a lot of the different committees that have formed in order to figure out the best way to get the ARPA money out into the community. So we are paying very close attention to that funding. And of course, if there's any funding that comes out that has to do with connecting and coordinating and that type of thing, we would definitely apply for that. So if you hear of anything, please let us know.
All right, cool. No, this is great. It's amazing. You got so many students at ASU that are so ingrained in this, and tapping into those resources is huge. So awesome.
I have a question for Naomi. Naomi, is there anything that we need to do to move this forward with help from this committee?
I'm sorry. As far as I think, as Shanna said, looking at to advocate for possible funding that could fund this position, I think would be helpful. I think the partnership is good.
Okay, so there's nothing that we need to do to move forward to the full council or work study session or anything like that?
I don't think so, not at this time.
Okay. All right, great. Well, Shanna, that was a wonderful presentation. I'm so glad that we're working with you. So thank you so much for that.
Of course, I would be happy at a future date, once we get the funding, to come talk to all of you about what this position could do. So I will just leave that open and I'll keep you posted.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Naomi, do you have any other reports or updates?
That's all we have for this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you being here too. Thank you so much. So our next presentation is on downtown safety study, and we are going to have Engineering and Transportation Director Marilyn DeRosa give us this presentation. So Marilyn, it's all yours.
Hi, council members. How are you? I'm going to share my screen. Share. Okay, I'm hoping that what you see is a PowerPoint that starts downtown safety features. Great. Okay, before, I just want to say that I was sitting here listening to the conversation, the previous presentations, thinking about how much different my work is in infrastructure, right? In transportation and engineering than the work that Naomi and Chief Glover do. They're doing super important work, and it's really good for us. I have Isaac Shavira with me, as well as Julian Drusang, and it's really good for us to really to understand what the relationship is. It causes us or forces us, to think about the relationship between human services and the built environment, which is what we're responsible for. So I appreciate the previous presentations, and I appreciate council members Garland and Navarro. This is your second job. I mean, you guys, this is your second job. Joel, I know you're at work right now, so I appreciate all the time and energy you guys put into the community. This has been I know that Councilmember Navarro has been working on this for a couple of years, so I want to just give you a brief update as to where we're at with respect to the downtown safety features. And if you have any questions, certainly let us know. As a background, we were talking about, for a while, we've been talking about protection, downtown safety, security at special events. And specifically, my responsibility would be the infrastructure, the protection from vehicles, traffic control and protection of the public spaces during city special events, and then the protection of critical municipal buildings in the downtown area. And there's a couple performance measures that this ties into. Vision Zero, which we had some speakers on, and we'll be really grateful to come back in August and share the various components of Vision Zero. Traffic speeds, speed limits is one of several elements. And so we'd be more than happy to share those with you. And then feeling safe during special events and in city facilities. I wanted to show this. This is, I think, Councilmember Navarro, these are the kind of things that you were trying to avoid. Temporary protection at special events is usually these water-filled barriers that are not very aesthetic, and they certainly don't enhance the event. And then permanent protection, critical municipal buildings. Here's a couple of bollards. I did not go out to the internet and search for ugly bollards, okay? I simply searched for bollards, and this is what came up, right? They're not terribly aesthetic. They're functional. But we're trying to, we got a multidisciplinary team together, and we talked about what could we do different to make downtown a little more special. So the team, I was pretty proud of them. They came up with this idea of for the temporary protection during special events, movable landscaped barriers. They talked about what kind of trees would work, what kind of containers would work, how big would the containers have to be, where would we put them, how would we get traffic, how would we get provide access for emergency vehicles, and they came up with answers to all those questions. They thought a canopy, they could put a canopy tree in with some seasonal ground cover, that the box could be fiberglass or steel or concrete. We're starting with fiberglass. We would store them in the right of way and then move them into the temporary location during the special event. They'd be accompanied obviously by traffic and directional signage, but the emergency access was one of the things we needed to ensure was maintained. This is what I like. As the tree matures, Richard Atkins, our city arborist, said, no problem. After about 5 years, I'll take the tree, I'll move it to a permanent location, and I'll replace the new tree in the movable barrier. So it's sustainable in that way. And we thought that a good pilot location would be 6th Street and Mill Avenue. These are just some examples of the kinds of movable containers. What I wanted to show here is different sizes and shapes in the upper left. The planter on the top in the middle, you can see at the bottom, it's got some forklift slots. So it's the same as the image on the right. We can move these things with a forklift, and the containers are built with those slots. You could use them for seating, which is in the lower left, and some of them come on rolling casters, which is in the bottom in the middle. We wanted to stay away from the rolling casters at this point. We're not going to pilot that, but those are options. Here's an image of the trees. We went and picked the Olive Hill Swan tree, some idea of what a container might be built like, look what it might be constructed of. And then in the lower right, we did a rendering before we even tried this. We did a rendering and said, well, this is potentially what it could look like at 6th and Mill with the emergency access on the left-hand side of that image on the lower right. So here's a little video I just wanted to show you. Isaac and his team went out there with fire. Joel, you'll probably enjoy this. Andrea and her team took a ladder truck and said, and they wanted to be sure they would, that we could place these barriers and that we would maintain access for emergency vehicles. So we did this test. Now, hopefully you could hear this. So we were super happy because Chief Glass gave us a thumbs up. And I wanted to point out here that this looks pretty crowded. 6th Street looks really crowded in this image, but that's largely because right now those businesses have extension of premise. So they're using some of the space in the right of way that wouldn't typically be the case. So while it looks a little crowded, there would be a little more space here during special events.
That is perfect.
So, so that's the movable barriers. Now, hardening of critical municipal infrastructure, we narrowed in the downtown area, we narrowed it down to City Hall, particularly in front of council chambers, PD and courts, and the 525 building or human resources. So right now we have a consultant assessing techniques that wouldn't negatively impact the aesthetics. And we're currently evaluating the plans for the layout. And we have funding in the 5-year CIP.
Good.
So just real quickly, you guys are familiar with all these locations. The City Hall steps to the council chambers from 5th Street, you guys know exactly where I'm talking about. We'd like to harden that right down into the council chambers there. You can see the bollards right now that are protecting the police courts entrance are just these two little, I mean, they're functional, but we want to relook at that location. There's also some there's a garden level plaza at the police courts building that currently has no protection. And then we want to look at the 525 building. And then there's a bunch of different options. You guys have traveled around the country and seen various options. Seat walls are pretty popular. These circular or concrete balls on the left. This right up here on the right, you guys should recognize that. That's our plaza there, adjacent to the 525 building. That little seating area in front of that waterfall, those are for vehicle protection, serve as for vehicle protection as well. So it doesn't have to be something unaesthetic.
Right.
And then just a few more examples of what things could look like. And so we're looking at these things. We've got the 3 temporary movable barriers. We're going to use them as a pilot project for special events. And Isaac has the hot off the press, the most recent information if you want to know where we're at with the trees in the boxes. And then options for hardening, we'll have that information later when the study is done. And then your team, the council, we would bring to council what those things look like to get some feedback with respect to aesthetics. And we want to ensure that they also fit into the design that we have for the 5th Street streetscape project that's currently in the CIP in year 4, I believe. So I think that's it. So I'm hoping that you guys are satisfied with the direction that we're going. And if there's any questions that you have or something else you want us to look at, please let us know.
Well, Marilyn, I'll start off first, thank you so much. I mean, this is near and dear to me, obviously, for various reasons: the safety of the downtown area, the aesthetic look of the downtown area. And when we have the ability, as with our development, we're going to have more people out in the streets. We're going to have more people an opportunity to do things on various days. And I think when we have the opportunity to close certain streets off, and we can do it safely but aesthetically pleasing, I think that's a great opportunity for our businesses. That's a great opportunity to doing something different than any other community is doing right now in our area. We stand apart. So when people start to get engaged with like a Sunday market or whatever it may be, and we can do it with the business owners not hurting their business, but actually inviting them to extend their premise a little bit, have some cafe tables out there. It just looks so well. And those are the things, the little detail things of what we do within our community, I think hold true value in how we present Tempe and how we package Tempe. I think those are the little detail things that when people come into our community from out of state, they seem to treasure, because it's like an environment they want to be part of. So that's why it's so important to me. But at the same time, it provides the safety that we need within those areas. I totally want to get away from traffic barricades. I don't want to get away from the, those kind of ugliness that we can get away with as much as possible. And I'll still push for that. I know I have to work with Streets and Two on some various things, but I want to say this is a great start. I like the fact that they're removable, and I love the idea. Put them in the medians for a holder, so I take it as you can basically pull them out. If we plan an event even on the weekend, if I'm thinking right, you can pull them out, place them whatever street closure you want, and still have that emergency access and not have to worry about it until Monday.
Yes, we'll be able to move them. Isaac has got them. Isaac is the expert right now, and we'll be able to move them with a forklift right over to the adjacent right of way. And one thing I didn't mention is we've been working with DTA on a relationship with respect to maintenance, that DTA would be willing to provide the maintenance for the vegetation while they're housed in the right of way.
So are we thinking, I'm sorry to cut you off. Are we thinking on the street corner or in the middle of the street medians?
In this case, I believe, Isaac, we're talking about 6th Street Park. We would store them in the park.
There you go. Okay, got it. Is there, I know Isaac had some detail. Is there some hot off the press information you wanted to share?
Yeah. Isaac, I think, let's see if Isaac has been, he has to be.
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Dargan Garland. So the existing planters worked great in the pilot, along with our chief Andrew Glass. But just also, I want to point out and make it clear that it's important that we still are going to have some minor barricades, right, in the left turn pockets and right turn pockets, since really a full closure needs those additional barricades in order to truly have a safe, complete closure. And so we are hoping that with these barriers, as Marilyn alluded to, that the fiberglass gives us some longevity. And the nice thing about them is, to Marilyn's point, is that they can be relocated fairly close to enhance not only when they're in use, but to enhance also the immediate areas around 6th Street Park or around alleys or areas where these will be located temporarily. Does that answer some of your questions?
No, that totally does. I think it's really, in my opinion, it's a step in the right, huge step in the right direction, and a lot of thought to this. And yeah, I do understand that we have to have that movable barricade, but if it can look aesthetically pleasing, like with the Tempe logo on the side, whatever it is, for sure, I'm all about that. I think at the end of the day, it's just the opportunity of what the businesses can do now. You know, we can get away from the ugly water barricades. We can get away from just a number of things, you know. And if they do want to do extension on premise and they're selling alcohol and they do need a barrier, you know, a pleasing fence now looks a lot better than what we were seeing today. So I think this is a true step up in the right direction, and I appreciate your time and Chief Glass and putting all the effort into this, Marilyn, Isaac. This is great. This is outstanding. So thank you so much for your effort on this. This truly is really an important step for me.
Yeah, and I have to say, you know, Marilyn, it wasn't until I was looking at the information packet that we got for planning this meeting, and I saw your slides. I honestly thought those big round balls in front of Target were there as decoration. I didn't realize, you know, they are placed right in front of the glass doors. It never occurred to me. And now I am looking at things a little bit differently as I'm walking around downtown or to stores. So thank you so much for looking at this. And I'm going to be paying attention to it now. But, you know, Joel, thank you for working so hard on so long, bringing this to the attention of the city. I think this is a great idea.
And I guess I'd also want to say that your council aide, Tim, is important because he keeps us on task.
Thank you, Tim. I know how it goes, Marilyn. I know how it goes. Everyone gets busy. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Marilyn. So we're going to go to our final discussion, our presentation from the Tempe Fire and Medical Rescue on opioids. And I want to welcome Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Deputy Chief Nick Ellis and EMS Coordinator Dana Cardenas. And I just saw her at a Tempe Coalition meeting, I think yesterday, the day before. So it's great to see you again. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Today we're going to talk about the opioid epidemic up through about 2021, and we're going to go over some facts, some numbers, some figures of how it's affecting our community, some of the outreach that we're doing, and pretty much the results of some of that outreach. So a lot of people, when they think of opioid epidemics, they think of illegal drugs. They think of, you know, just the heroin. They think of things like that. What they don't also think of is the fact that prescription medications as well are a very big problem. You know, whether it's teenagers or adults getting, you know, going to different places, shopping around for those medications, getting those, they're highly addicted. And right now, the big thing that we're seeing is a large increase in fentanyl. This fentanyl use is a synthetic drug. It's not like some of the other ones, and it's not made here in the United States. That's one of the big things is people are making the mistake that the fentanyl that they might be getting from a hospital or a pharmacy is the same that they're buying from off the streets, and that isn't the case. In fact, fentanyl is so strong and so deadly that I'll show you guys some numbers here in a minute that'll be pretty alarming to you on what fentanyl is. But it's usually produced and manufactured to the border south of us and brought
excuse me, Nick.
Yes,
just a moment. Your volume is really low. Is there a way that we can turn up the volume so we can hear you a little bit better?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
That's getting better. Yep.
All right, how about now?
Better, thank you.
All right, so we're going to take you through some data now on what we're seeing out in the streets here in Tempe. And after I go through the data, my registered nurse, Dana Cardenas, is going to go through what we're doing with outreach within the community, currently, past, and future plans as well. So as you guys know, in Tempe here, we are a very data-driven organization and department. And with that data, it kind of guides us on where we are going to go with our planning, with our execution, and we make sure that we check that along with what we're seeing in the streets. So next slide, please.
Oh, hey Nick, it's Tim. I thought you were running the slides.
I'm trying to run it.
Oh, it's you, Dana. No, I'm sorry. I made Nick the presenter. You should be able to now. Yeah, sorry. You should have access now.
Okay, I was wondering why.
Wrong one.
You're on mute, Dana.
Chief Els, we're still not hearing you.
Can you hear me right now?
There you go.
Yeah.
Kind of faint.
I don't have the PowerPoint up yet, Dana.
I've got it up. Tim.
There you go. I see it. Oh,
You?
yep, I saw it. It's now yeah, there you go. There you go.
Let me actually that's not the most recent one. Let me go through mine right here. Tim, can you give me the power to share?
I'm so sorry. Tim.
Do you guys see that now?
No, not yet.
Nope, nothing yet. I'm happy to run it on my end if you like.
Yeah, Tim, if you can run it on your end, for some reason mine's not coming up. Yep,
Oh, there it is.
There we go. Thank you.
All right, so next slide.
Wait, that's you running it.
Oh, I am so sorry.
We'll get there. No
We're
worries.
used to Teams. I'm sorry.
We're all becoming technical experts.
I have faith in you, Nick.
I have you guys on a very little window right now that I'm trying to figure out how to make it huge. My apologies.
I forget what that button is. Tim, what does he have to do to make it?
When he shares, he has to share the presentation version. Or that's what you're talking about.
Sharing.
On the bottom
You guys
right.
have it on facts and data?
Yeah, yeah, we see facts and data.
All right. Well, let's go from here. So the facts and data. When we look at it, we're a very data-driven organization. Our organization, like I said, we not only use data and stuff to really drive our mission and where we're going to go with everything, but also it allows us to reevaluate. And there's many different levels of data that we use. One of the levels is the electronic patient care reports, and that system that when we run EMS calls, we're able to gather that data and that information. Another one is the wastewater study. That's important for us because it takes those biomarkers from those wastewaters, and we're able to not only look at what our data says as far as the EPCR reports on opioid data and create those heat maps, but we can measure that up against other data, such as what the wastewater says as regards to zip codes. You know, and it's a very, very more telling tale because it tells us a little bit more about what demographics are safe or not safe from opioid use. And surprise, surprise, there is no demographics in our city that is safe or that doesn't use opiates. It is all over our city. It opened our eyes to more of where we need to focus our outreach more. Maybe in the more underserved areas of the city, we're finding a higher level of opiate use, overdoses, etc. So let me figure out how to go to the next slide here.
There we go.
All right, there we go. So this slide right here shows the number of opioid-related incidents that we have each month. When we started tracking this back in January of 2017, we're an average amount of time we're running around 24 through the end of the month. 21, we had one spike up to 44, but then back down. When we look at 2018, you can see in February 2018 we're at 16 opioid-related incidents a month. When we jumped up to June, we were at 52. I kind of wanted you to remember the June of 2018 timeframe because it's going to make some sense here in a minute when we compare that to some other data. And since then, in June 2018, when we look across, we've been averaging around 45 incidents a month, all the way until this last year when the pandemic hit. We started to see some higher rises, some lower valleys, all the way into April when we hit 63 opioid-related incidents each month. And this is extremely alarming to us because when we try and put this together with what exactly is the demographic that we can outreach to, that we can provide education, that we can provide, all sorts of resources to, it isn't one certain demographic. There's demographics that are more prevalent than others, but in age ranges, but there isn't. It is all over the place. So we figure out, we look at and we measure the amount of opioid overdoses that we've had each month, and then we took that number and we put it against what the average amount of Narcan use that we use each month to get a patient revived, to bring him back to breathing again. It is a scary trend. When you look at April 2016, heroin was pretty prevalent back then. Fentanyl was not really a thing then. And we look at the average dose was around just over 2 milligrams, 2.25 milligrams of Narcan, which is a standard dose to revive somebody after they've overdosed. And through the time when when the epidemic has really hit into the synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, that drastically increased. Now fentanyl, when we look at it in its nature, it is a synthetic opioid and it is 100 times more potent than morphine, to give you guys an idea. And when I talked about earlier that this drug is usually manufactured for the street version of it, it's usually manufactured down in Mexico, brought across the border and sold here. They don't fall under the same guidelines of FDA that drugs are manufactured here in the streets. So one pill, you might have very little fentanyl in it. Another pill, you might have enough that's going to kill an elephant. And you're really gambling as a user when you use those street narcotics. And this is the trend that we're seeing because how potent and powerful it is. The average dose of Narcan has gone up tremendously. It's gone from 2.25 milligrams all the way up to 5 milligrams that we're seeing. This is average that we're having to give people to bring them back. That's 2.5 times the amount that we're having to use on people, and the amount and the overall incidence of Narcan has gone up greatly. And this is a great concern for us. And for those of you that may not know, Narcan is a drug that pretty much counteracts the effects of opioids. So it blocks those receptor sites in your body, so it allows your body to breathe again. Narcotics generally have respiratory depression and CNS depression type effects on your body, and this blocks that, allowing you to breathe again. So when I asked you to look at the 2018, or remember the 2018 timeline, when we look at this was the Public Health Association's death by genders in Arizona. In 2018 is when we enacted the Arizona Opioid Epidemic Act. All right, when you look at this yellow line right here, it talks about the synthetic drugs like fentanyl, tramadol, stuff like that, with the major one being fentanyl. And it is on the rise, and it's been on the rise, and it doesn't seem to have any slowing down. Its significant rise is so much that through 2015 and 19, we've seen an 84% overall rise in death for it, and that is it's incredibly sad. We have to do more about this. This graph right here shows you the percentage by age group, I guess you could say. So when we look at this chart in 2016 through 2021, the ages have generally stayed the same. Our greatest ages show to be between 20 to 39 years old are the greatest overdose users. And so that's when we look at how we're going to do outreach and what groups and what demographics we can target. This is one of the big ones that we really want to hit is, hey, what are the people ages 20 to 39? What are they doing? How can we reach them the best? Because they're approximately 70% of what we're seeing for opioid overdoses right now. When we look at the Narcan administration, and this is just for what we believe might be a narcotic overdose for people 17 and under. When we look back at 2016 and 17 and even 2018, we are seeing 1 or 2 incidents a year where we had younger than 17 that we suspected had opioid overdoses that we administered Narcan on, which is really good. And at 2019, we saw a significant jump to 9 incidents. In 2020, we jumped to 10. And so far through 2021, we're halfway through the year and we have 3. And so that tells us at least that we are looking, or our outreach that we're doing is working right now to somewhat. We don't know exactly why we have the large spike in it from 2019 and 20, if we can attribute that to lockdowns and COVID and everything that's gone home from that, but there hasn't been enough study on that yet. But if we continue our outreach, I believe that we can still, and Dana's going to go into some of this outreach with things like RX360 to the younger crowd that we can really reach to make sure that they understand how dangerous a drug these are. When we look at the opioid incidence with homeless patients, this is the percentage of overall overdoses that we administer on Narcan patients. So when we look, it's in 2016 it was right around 17%, and it's been a steady change, or I'm sorry, it's been a steady line all the way through last month of 2021, where it's reached about 24%, rising just a little bit each year. And so this shows us that there needs to be an outreach or effort to outreach to our homeless and underserved population as well. We have some of them, sometimes some months are as high as 33 and 43%. Since January 2021, we've seen a definite spike in it, and other times we've had a decrease. But this data tells us where we need to concentrate efforts on these demographics. And with that, I would like to turn it over to my registered nurse, Dana Cardenas.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. We can go to the next slide. The outreach efforts is just a huge collaborative effort. Care 7, the Hope team, Tempe Coalition. It is just a lot of people coming together here in the city that has made this such a success. One of the projects I wanted to discuss was the drug DEA take back project that we had. We had the first one that we had at the beginning of the year. We were able to have, and for those of you that have been on a similar presentation to what I did on this, I just want to let you know, I stand corrected. Actually, the number that we have is a lot more. So I thank Tempe Coalition for calling me and actually letting me know that our numbers were more. I misinformed in some of the information. So this is the current numbers right here. And if you can see, we had one at the Hardy substation where we took 344 pounds of prescription medications. People just drive up and they're able to dispense and give medications to us so that we can dispose of it safely. We had one at the ASU campus with 19 pounds. So we had a total of 363 pounds of prescription medications that was brought in to us. We have another upcoming event. We'll be doing in between, because the drug DEA take back is twice a year. So what we're looking at doing is offsetting in between those two dates so that we can have at least one a quarter. So our upcoming community Dispose a Med event will be held Saturday, July the 31st. And between 8 and 11, and we're still working on the location, but when we do have that, it will be on the Tempe website, and it'll also be on the Tempe Coalition website as well. Really, the goal of this is to make sure that we're taking any extra prescription medications out of the hands of maybe some of our youth or teenagers that are wanting to experiment, or maybe some family members that may be having opioid issues and we don't know about. Next slide, please. So the other thing that we're really proud of, and one of the things that we were looking at, as Chief Ells was talking about, is looking at the different age demographics and who we're doing outreach to. With our Patient Advocate Service Program here with Tempe Fire and Medical Rescue, we serve those, for those of you that don't know, all of our citizens in the city of Tempe on a non-emergent basis. We get crews from referrals and police department referrals and community referrals, and then we're able to go out and help them with whatever need they may have if they're having a hard time. But one of the things that we saw in our senior population was really one of the things that we do is med reconciliation. And what that means is we go through all of their meds, contact their primary care providers, and make sure that they're taking their prescriptions correctly. And 9 times out of 10, either they're taking them at the wrong time, maybe the wrong prescription, double dosing. But this is a really great way to be able to help those with cognitive disorders or those that are our senior population and be able to get organized. And then we tether with that some support services with like the Senior Adult Independent Living Program through Area Agency on Aging, so that they have somebody that's coming out and actually filling those prescription pill dispensers for them. One of the things that we were able to do with the grant that we received was to get some that actually are automated. So they actually talk, or they have a buzzer, or they have something that signifies that they need to take their meds. So if they have meds to take 3 times a day, if they've forgotten to take them, it reminds them to take them. But then also if they just took them and they thought they didn't, we don't want them. We've seen some overdoses because they've double dipped on their meds. So that's why we were doing that. Next slide. So the other thing that we're really proud of is Tempe Coalition is now registered as a Narcan distribution site through AZDHS, just as of this year at the beginning of the year in February. And we're really doing a lot of outreach efforts, and thank you, Councilwoman Garlett, because you actually were able to participate in one of these. And so I really hope that it met everyone's expectations, but really what we're wanting to do is make sure that we are educating everyone on exactly what Narcan is, how to use it, how to have it available. And this is really important for a lot of our families who don't know that they can actually get this for free. but anyone interested in having a Narcan teaching can reach out to Tempe Coalition, and they can get set up for an education. And actually, at the end of the class, they will actually give you the Narcan to take home. Next slide. So we've partnered, as I said before, with a lot of people in the community, and it's been a huge collaborative. One of the things that we've done is partnered with a nonprofit organization called Not My Kid. And what we've done to try and meet the needs during the pandemic was make sure that we were touching everyone. And one of the things that we noticed, because we weren't in school, we were doing everything from home, was how are we, typically we would reach out and we go do education in the schools, but now that we're not in class, what do we do? So Tim, can you, or Chief, are you able to run that on your end, the video? If you can't, that's okay. I will make sure and put the link in here so that you guys can watch the video, but it's just a minute-and-a-half video from Not My Kid, discussing exactly that they have still they're doing what we call teen talks, and so they invite in everybody from the schools or have the contact information, and they can just come on to this forum and have discussions and get resources and just have frank conversations. And so this is just an open way for us to be able to engage with the youth and that younger demographic. Next. The other big thing that we had and we put out this month was our opioid awareness campaign, and this was really it was so. There were so many people that worked on this, so I just so many people that I can't even mention, but like we worked really hard on wanting to shatter the stigma of what opioid addiction looks like and who actually is in your community that you might not even know. The message that we want to put out there is there's absolutely nobody that hasn't had a car accident, that hasn't had a sports injury, that hasn't had a work injury, maybe some dental work. All of us have had one of those things and been prescribed a prescription medication. We're really wanting to educate people on how easy it is to get addicted to those medications, what that looks like so they can identify it with their families. And, you know, police officers, firefighters, we have a lot of injuries, as you can imagine, with our jobs. So even we aren't, you know, excluded from this group. We want to make sure that everybody out there knows that even the local soccer mom or your local police officer or firefighter, you know, has been prescribed medications and could also be at risk. So that was what the opioid awareness campaign was all about, is shattering that stigma. Next. So RX 360 training videos that we do, MAG has put out some training videos and the curriculum has been approved. What we do is, and we've been doing this for the last 4 years, is we partnered with Tempe's the school resource officers, the PD, and we go out pre-COVID, and we were actually talking and engaging with the kids one-to-one. The teachers from the health or science classes would have an entire day where they block out for us to come and talk to the teens. We did middle school and high school in all the Tempe school districts, and what we did was really, instead of just kind of preaching don't use drugs, we really engaged with them and asked them, what are they seeing? What do they know? And so we, during the pandemic, we were like, how do we reach our younger youth? So what we decided to do was, since we were incorporating things online for curriculum, we wanted to make videos that the teachers could actually embed in to their curriculum so that they still were able to get that information out to those students year after year. We don't know what the next school year is going to look like. We hope it's going to be back to normal, but we just don't know. And this is an easier way for them to be able to embed that into the curriculum that they have. The other thing that we've done, and some of you have been a part of it, is we've done lunch and learns for our city employees where we, Chief Glass and I actually did some training and explained in detail what opioid withdrawal and addiction looks like. And so using these RX360 curriculums, we've been able to reach a large variety of people here in the city of Tempe. Next. So as I was talking about before, and we're hoping that with the next school year coming up very quickly, is that we're going to make some 30-second public service announcements. We're going to create those, and then we're going to have them displayed at all of the schools as like bulletins that they can hang all over the schools. And all these younger kids have smartphones, so they'll be able to scan these QR codes, just like you would a menu at a restaurant, and to be able to see that 30-second public service announcement at the end of it. We'll have Chair 7, somebody from the police department and somebody from fire that will be explaining what resources that we have available to them and how they can get in contact with somebody for help. We also have a community 30-second public service announcement that we're also going to be making to target the entire community. And you'll be seeing these QR codes hopefully coming up at all of our city buildings, public transit areas, and things like that. So the good thing about using these QR code messages is that we can get data back on how many people have actually downloaded and seen these educational videos. So that's really important for us to have because you know, we can hang door hangers or mailers or things like that, but we really don't know who's really heard or seen, and we, you know, unless we get surveys. But in this, we can also add 1 or 2 survey questions at the end, and so we'll be able to get some feedback as well. So that's just a creative and innovative way that we're working on trying to spread the awareness. Next. At the beginning of this, actually it was last year, we thank you to Care 7 and our police department for putting together trauma-informed videos. This is really important because we were able to get it into our target safety, which is for our firefighters. And this information is so good because when we're engaging with the public, we want for all of our first responders to be abreast of what's going on out there and how to engage with the public in a better way. And so understanding what trauma-informed care really means and how that ties to addiction, it gives the why people have addiction. And that is what is really important. Understanding why somebody may have gotten into the position that they're in gives us a better perspective when we're trying to provide care for them. Next. And so just letting you guys know like kind of what we're doing out there as far as efforts that are supporting us for this is SACLS and MAPFORCE have supplied the grant for the Tempe Coalition and for all of us to be able to provide a lot of this information, the awareness campaigns, the Narcan, all of these things have been a collaborative effort. And one of the things that we're working on right now and getting ready to put out very soon is these toolkits. And these toolkits have a lot of educational material and it has information on how to be able to get Narcan and where those educational opportunities are to be able to engage with us. Next. So a lot of thanks to Shanna Malone. She actually does a lot of our pre and post surveys for a lot of these different projects. And I'm sure that some of our council members are pretty familiar with who she is, but she's really been the one that has been able to spearhead a lot of the strategic measures on being able to get some information back on those post surveys, post project surveys. Next. And so again, I can't stress this enough, like without everybody working together, and strategically having a plan and goals set in place, there's really not a way for us to be able to get everybody involved and to be able to outreach to everyone. And I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work that they do every day and working with us and collaborating with us on all of these efforts. So thank you so much.
Dina, that was great information. And Chief Els, thank you so much for the data that you have that you shared with us. I think that's really important for us to be able to see the numbers. Dana, I love the idea that you are working so hard on all different age ranges, that we're not looking at, you know, just one specific age range, that we're really targeting many different ones. I think that's great. I think the QR codes is a fabulous idea, because kids don't want to pick up and they don't read those pamphlets, and something comes in the mail and they're not going to pay attention. So I think, and a lot of people don't. So I think those QR codes are something that I think that really targets and really gets to those people that are going to read them. I love the idea. I did not hear this the other day at Tempe Coalition meeting, that that we can get data on how many people are looking at them. That's fabulous, because that will really let you know who is using it and when, what time of day it's being used. I just think that's great information. You guys have done a really great job. And I was just told that there will be 6 Narcan trainings over the next 3 months, and that it is tempecoalition.org if somebody wants to go. And I appreciate you mentioning that. It was a 2-hour class, I think. It was well worth it, and I have my Narcan I carry with me now. So I highly, highly recommend people, even if you don't want to carry the Narcan, to go and to take the class, so you learn a little bit more about the outcomes of doing these drugs and what happens to you. It was just a fabulous presentation. So thank you so much, Danny. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chief Els, Dana, this is outstanding. This is a lot of work for a lot of years to get to this point, to work with other agencies, to collaboratively getting the information, targeting the market, targeting the areas that we really want to make an impact on. And there's still more work to be done, obviously, and how we do it, and how we send that message out, and then how we recraft it, and all those good things. I think you're just so spot on in so many ways. I mean, I'm enjoying this, because over the course of when this started, when I went back to that conference in DC and where we're at now, I mean, honest to God, guys, I can showcase this at an NLC conference on how we're doing things in our city, how we're making a difference in our city. I mean, our council members and mayor have to be so proud of you guys in fostering this and really shepherding this all the way to where it's at now. And still, we're going to be making even more impacts. Yes, the QR codes, I have to use them here at work to track things down. I'm absolutely is the greatest tool right now, to get some information data and how we're doing and how we're acting. The videos, the information we get, how we use those videos. I know that we had a presentation, I don't know, 2-3 meetings back on, just some fentanyl exposures and PD using Narcan, and the video that they shared. Those videos are powerful. I mean, even if you can condense those down into a 15-30 second type of information, those have real information. And not only that, it's in our community. And it really shows that this is not somewhere else, this is happening here, and showing the data of the fentanyl and how it's increasing and how we're making an impact, and it's just trying to show that the impact that we're making is showing a decrease. My God, that's going to be tremendous information going forward. So I'm so happy you guys are doing this. I'm so happy you guys are staying engaged in this. This is just a real something to see, a success going in the right direction, knowing that we're using this information wisely. Just keep it going. Seriously, keep it going. And anything you guys need, please let us know, and how we can help you take it to the next level. How do we take it to the next level? So I'm going to keep on pushing you guys to really kind of make it even better, even better, even better. And I think you guys are such on the right track. So thank you so much for everything in the presentation. It was great today, guys. Thank you.
Dana, there's a couple questions that were in the chat. One of them is, I will let you answer it offline. I can get you in contact with the person who wrote the question. But one of them, they asked if you would come to a neighborhood meeting.
Oh, we engage all the time. Now that we're coming out of everything with COVID, as long as my leadership is okay with that, I'm sure that is fine. That's what we do.
All right, that's awesome. I'll get you in contact with the person who requested that information. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again, Dana.
No problem.
Thank you, Chief Els.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so we're going to move on. I think I have the last thing here. So we're going to examine presentations for our for our next committee meeting, which will be in August. The presentations will be for the Human Services and Community Safety Council meeting will be renaming of city amenities. These are the three that we're looking at. Renaming of city amenities, a presentation from the Tempe Police Department on their state of accreditation, and Vision Zero update, unless you have anything else to add to that. Joel. You're on mute.
There I am. No, the presentation on Vision Zero, yeah, that's gonna be great. So appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, turning it all back over to you.
Yep, and then our next HSCS Council Committee will be August 27th at 12 p.m. And we are adjourned. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who spoke today. Everything was great. And I just want to say, I know that Councilmember Garland probably feels the same way. This is truly is great information, and I'm glad we're doing this because this is going to help our community, but it's also great for our council to know about this stuff too. So thank you guys for everything you're doing. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.
All right, thank you, everybody.